and dice fiends, welcome in. This is the Table Talk Show. I am Kay. This is David. We have a very special guest here today, who I believe is over here. Before we jump in, though, thank you, the Transmissions, for the raids. It is so great to see you week after week. We are going to have to find a time when you are streaming after us so we can return the favor. But thank you. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow.
Thank you for the furler. For the furler.
We're off to a great
Minnesota.
start. Hey, Ghosty JK, and Hamalau, thank you so much. Welcome on in. We are here doing the Table Talk Show, where every Tuesday we talk all things TTRPGs, from indies to intersectionality. Every Tuesday this month, and this next Wednesday, we are doing Magnificent Pride, which are TTRPGs for charity. Our charity this month is Black and Pink, so please, if you are into TTRPGs, we have an incredible group of tables, including on the 19th, the day after my birthday, we are going to have Danielle Radford from Dimension 20 playing an incredible game. So please come back if you like what you see here. If you want to see more, we have a good time. That is really what we have to plug right now. David, who the heck is you and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi. I am child-free by choice because it's a lot of work and a lot of money, but I still think that kids who are locked in a facility for 8 hours a day should eat for free. And this is the Chaotic Wholesome Presents Table Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, how to convince the orphans to become your own little spy network and distribute sharp, pointy things to them, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusion so that everybody can have a good time.
And as we let our special guests introduce themselves, David, I'm going to adjust the color, but will you adjust the setup of the captions, because they are not entirely
because I didn't switch back. Yep. What I'm gonna do is
I forgot to do that too. So I forgot to do it too. You are not alone. Kylie.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us, who the heck are you, and what the heck is you doing here?
So my name is Kylie. I am a program and outreach manager at a museum, a children's museum. And I'm here to talk about the power of play, the power of imaginative play for children and grown-ups. We are talking to a group of nerds who understand that imaginative play is important. And I can tell you all the psychological studies that they've talked about of the importance of play and things like that. I have a lot of experience. I've been working in museums for the last decade. This last museum I've been working on is about, it's 2024, about 3.5 years.
I know those feels. I'm constantly having to do that.
Yeah, it's like brain, and it's like, when did I move, and how long have I been here? Whoa, that accent came out in a weird way, and it's fine.
I'm here for it. It is my favorite.
And then, part of that is that I am piloting a TTRPG summer camp. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, but we have lots and lots of things that are, that I could talk about, specifically about play and all those good things.
Thank you for that heads up, Ribonanza. Am I better? And David, you might need to bump your volume in OBS a little bit. The good news is I can fix this for the VOD in post. But that is about as loud as I can get, unfortunately. Hard Knock Dice! Hello! Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Oh, and I'm so sorry, David. Oh, no, we did. Never mind.
Wait.
So, yes. It's good. The thing I didn't think was going to happen happened, so we're good. You did a good thing.
If I did something wrong, you can berate me in public, okay?
I have no desire to do so. Yes, hello, welcome. So, I had a really fun little transition to talk to you about, and then my brain I was doing too many producer mode things, and David, kindly bump your volume just a little bit more if you're able to. And yes, so, okay. Let's talk about I'm gonna start this off with some fun. Part of the reason, well, not part of the reason, I got into TTRPGs later in life. I didn't get to play TTRPGs until I was in my 30s because I grew up in the South, y'all, and Dungeons and Dragons was that devil stuff. And even if I could have found someone who didn't think it was the devil stuff, the local game shop was not a place for young ladies like me in a Christian school. And once I finally started playing them, I had just this moment of like, oh my god, this would have changed young me's life. Like, one of the most powerful things I experienced, like, I was just sitting there like, this would have allowed me to try out things, to try out identities, to experiment, to feel out things in ways that didn't have long-lasting repercussions. And that is part of the reason that David and I are so passionate about giving to charities, especially charities like Child's Play, where they do really work with trying to get not just video games, but other tools to children. So yes, tell us a little bit about some of that experience and some of what you have learned and what you could say, because it is, after all, International Day of Play. That's not the word of it. I've lost it. Hi,
It
y'all.
is International Day of Play.
Is that the name of it? I thought I got it wrong.
No, you're good. Today is International Day of Play, and I will tell you that you sort of hit the nail on the head. So one of the things that I have found as I have been developing these programs is that play is the way that children become people. How they human, how they adult. They are learning from the grown-ups around them, whether that is their biological grown-ups or just the grown-ups that they see every day, that they interact with at the grocery store, their teachers, what have you. And one of the things that I saw as I was working with this museum, especially post-pandemic, I should say post 2020 to be more accurate.
Post the world opening back up-ish. Herb, thank you so much for the raid. I'm so sorry. Please hold that thought. Good. We're going to do... Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Brian, thank you so much for that raid. Thank you for bringing your community on over. Hi, y'all. I am Kay. I am one of the hosts of the Table Talk Show. This is David. He's the other host of the talk show. We're here with a very special guest, Kylie, who is going to talk to us about... who's talking to us about children's play and TTRPG programs, especially around... through museums and the amazing things that she does. We are so thankful that you're here, and yes, so now, back with that little intro. If you like what you see, please come back every Thursday. This month we are doing charity games for Pride, and we've got incredible tables. Continue, Kylie, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So one of the things I noticed was that children were struggling with those social emotional learning tools. So things like compromise, things like sharing and sort of the concept of it's okay to fail. Now that's something that I've seen for the last decade, but really just those general like how to people skills that you learn when you are little was severely lacking. And so one of the things that TTRPGs, whether that's D&D or Monster of the Week or whatever, it sort of forces you to communicate with the people around you, and you have to compromise, and you have to talk, and you have to struggle and fail in a safe way. Like, you can roll a nat 1 and totally whiff on something, but it's not catastrophic to your real life identity and the stakes. The stakes are low, so you can fail in a large way, with the stakes still being low on your personal level.
And especially, like, really good GMs do make failing fun. So, like, these ways that you can, yes, I rolled a nat 1, and it's funny, and now my friend gets to help me, right? Those are really cool, really powerful tools.
Yeah. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, like, that's a really good approach to it, because there's a lot of discourse about screen time with children, and I've like witnessed this myself, where, like, you know, they play a lot of games, and either the games are sort of nonsensical and nothing matters, like Roblox, or games have two things. One, they're very video games are very linear, like you just move in a straight line until the end, and they also have mechanics where failure is an endpoint and you have to start again until you. And so, like the very real world, okay, you failed, now what? Because you can't go back and start again. Or this is kind of a failure, but kind of not a failure, and you got to kind of like navigate this. Or hey, the path forward isn't a straight line. Or all things that TTRPGs bring that video games don't have.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned the like you can't redo something. So one of my safety tools that I created for this summer camp is actually the rewind button. Now it's not for dice rolls, but it's for social interactions. And the whole point, because the group of kids that I'm working with are like 8 to 12 right now. And so I wanted to give them the ability to be more socially conscious of what they are saying to each other, like in character. So the idea is, Kay, if you and I are playing our game and then I say something to your character that hurt your feelings, or you thought maybe like, I don't know, any number of things. Usually it's at the discretion of the GM or our adventure guides. That's the name of our DMs in camp. Our adventure guides. They are allowed to say pause, and then I can say, hey, or you can say, hey, Kylie, when we were doing something, you told me to do that, and I don't feel really good about that. Can you ask me instead? So telling versus asking, or any like there's lots of iterations of that. But the idea is that we are creating more empathy through this discourse and dialogue, and so they can hash it out IRL, and then they can hit play or like rewind, replay, and then they can redo that interaction. So it doesn't go around the actual dice roll, but that's. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's been used several times over the last 3 years, and I think it's pretty successful. So
I think that's brilliant, because I'm reminded of a discussion I've had multiple times over the years of people who think that brutal honesty is not like a moral flaw, that they could just say whatever they want, and as long as it's like honest and true, that it doesn't matter. And they think that people who are being tactful and communicating with people are ostensibly lying to them. And I'm like, no, what your first impulse to say doesn't always carry your intention. And just like every book that you've ever picked up, it was not a first draft, but it is definitely what the author meant to say to you. When you communicate with others, the first thing that springs to mind, and in many cases the first thing that comes out of your mouth, isn't necessarily what you mean, and it's really hard to take words back. And so giving children the opportunity to practice, like reflecting on the consequences of the things that they've said, the impulse control of just blurting something out, and then being able to do the thing that we wish we could do in real life and go back and go, okay, well, those words are now unsaid, and I'm going to try this again to better get my intention across, I think is a really, really, really powerful exercise.
Yeah.
And there are similar safety tools that I have used in actual plays where people are like, actually, hold on. Like, I didn't understand, like, there's an actual rewind button, which can be done in certain ways. So they are great tools, yes, for kids, but also as adults, because we're all just kids that got old.
Yeah.
Or leveled up. We're all just
100%.
kids that leveled up.
Still kids, time passed.
Yeah.
Obviously, I am still a child.
Hey, you don't see all of the stuff that I have, but and thank goodness we're not at my museum office because it's like a toy box exploded, and it's chaos, but it's good and I love it. Um, yeah.
I did want to ask, so how did you go from, because we got a little bit of history in the green room of you actually started as planning to be like an archivist. Like you did not plan this. I also find it really interesting that it's like museums with TTRPG. How did that marriage happen? How did that come about?
Oh gosh, so it's a long, as the Doctor Who fans would say, it's wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff going on. So when I was getting my master's degree in history, a professor was like, you should get this certificate in museum and archival studies, and I was like, cool, I like that. I want to be in academia. That sounds bad. Well, at that point I was like, I don't want to do this. I need to figure out an exit strategy, and this certificate presented itself. So I was doing that, and I was actually creating materials for my project to make archives more accessible to K-12 teachers, because primary source documents are so special and impactful and show other people. Again, this goes back to showing other people's perspectives and having that empathy and understanding social and cultural contexts to things, right? So I did that. I completed that degree, and then I did some side stories that doesn't matter. I get really long-winded, so I'm just trying to like figure out that. I worked at a science museum, and then when pandemic happened, I applied to this job, got it, and was tasked with creating all of the summer camps, field trips, day-to-day programming, you name it. I do it. I create all of the community connections that we are going to be relying on when the museums open and all that good stuff. And I had been really using TTRPGs as sort of a lifeline for community during the pandemic and moving to a new state and all of that stuff. That's why I'm gonna shout out the a podcast that I was doing with the individual who actually is in charge of Hard Knock Dice, and so it was super lovely and wonderful, and that's how I'll get into that relationship in terms of TTRPGs and stuff in a bit. But I was just thinking about like how cathartic the TTRPGs were for me, and then listening to early childhood experts talk about this deficiency in social emotional learning that was happening, and I was like, well, shoot, the thing that I see in TTRPGs is the social emotional scaffolding. And so I went to my executive director and went, hey, you know how I do this thing for funsies? I would like to make a camp out of this. And luckily, she didn't really understand D&D or any of that, but she was on the board of the local theater company and was like,
boom.
Believe that sounds good to me.
This is improv. Perfect.
Yes. So I proposed it, she approved it, and that first camp I had 10 campers, and then the last 2 years I've had 12. And then this year I think I'm gonna have another 12. Just because of funding, I can only hire 2 adventure guides, so 6 per table feels very doable.
It does. Six children at one table feels doable.
We don't. So you have to understand, everything's a little bit more loosey goosey, and we don't play D&D. The last couple of years we have been using the Kids on Bikes and Kids on Brooms system, which is a little bit more easy for the kiddos to understand, because they like each dice has an assigned meaning, and it goes a little bit more with the flow. And also, I just tell my adventure guides at the end of the day, if they're laughing and having fun, that's all I care about. So
As is the goal of every good GM. If the table's happy, I'm happy. If the table's crying for a good reason, I did a good job. If everyone's mad for a good reason, at the NPC, great. If they're mad at each other, we gotta rethink some things.
Yeah. And so the camp structure goes as this, because I'm actually really proud of my camp structure, because I feel like it provides a great build-up of relationships, because again, TTRPGs are all built off of trust and fun. So on the first day we use oh gosh, I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it's Avery Alder's map building game. What is it called? Internet save me.
Right.
The Quiet Year?
Yes. So the very first day they do each table uses the Quiet Year to sort of inform their world, because we want the kids to have stakes in the game. And it's really truly amazing to hear the answers to some of the questions that get asked during the Quiet Year. Things like one of the questions is kind of a little heady, of you answer the question of there are old people in the village, what is their place in this community? Or there are children in the village, what do they like, how do they contribute? And so hearing a 10-year-old answer that question, and not silly, they actually genuinely answer the question. And part of it is that they have to listen to each other and build this world on a macro level, which is something else that people are like, a child can't do that. Yes, they can. You just have to. Children are spectacular. I love them. They're filthy goblins. I'll say it a million
Make no
times.
mistake. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
Filthy hobbitses.
Yeah, but their empathy and their ability to think about hard things is truly spectacular. So there's that. Day 2, they get introduced to the TTRPG system that we're using, and then they get to build their character, and that includes making their costume. So I have crafting materials, hot glue guns. Last year I had a child straight up sew, use needle and thread to sew a skirt, and it was now granted the adventure guide helped quite a lot and he was a delight and was very yeah, I can help you. But there was it was amazing to see their creativity just blossom, because they got to make who they were being in the game. And then the museum has a 3D printer, so I have them come over and we hop on Hero Forge, and they get to make their little character. And then
that's really cool.
Over the rest of the week, I frantically 3D print 12 minis on our printer. It's wonderful. Wednesday, they get to finish up their costume, and then the big thing that they do is they do an engineering design project, which is make a box fort around the table that they're going to be playing their game, so that it they have to do a little bit of engineering, in the sense of they get a limited number of cardboard, they get a limited number of these things called make do, so they're little plastic connectors, and they have to work together and figure out okay, we have this much space, we have this much material, what does this look like? And then they have to work together to build this thing, and they get elaborate, and it's again spectacular. And then Thursday they play their game, and again, and you get I get at that point I just get to watch in awe of their hilarity as tiny humans. And then Friday morning they wrap up anything they didn't finish, and then they have a pizza party and get to share all of the things that that they did with their grown-ups, and then they leave and I clean up. But that is camp.
That sounds so exhausting. I am tired just here, and this is the big difference between children and adults, because children would have a blast doing that. I'm tired just hearing about it. I need a nap. I need 2 naps.
I have to say, I was against my will sent to camp many, many, many years as a child. And I did not like camp for multiple reasons, largely because I don't know if anyone has picked up on this, but I'm an oddball. And I was very oddball as a child.
Small town Texas was too small for you.
Yeah. Well, and also, I had more of a sense of self and like what do I want and what do I not want than most other kids that I've known. Right? Like my mom straight up said, like, you turned 2 and learned the word no, and you were a perfect child until then. Like, it's just like, no, I'm not wearing lace. No, I'm not wearing the ruffly dress. No, I'm not like, peer pressure never really worked on me unless I wanted to do the thing already. And I didn't get along real well with the kids at camp. I was stuck in the same space as them, and we had to go outside in the summer in Texas when it was 100 and some odd degrees and humid, and I had to like play sports. Most of the camps I was sent to was sports, and it did nothing to like connect me to those other kids because I wasn't good at sports. So all they did was make fun of me for being bad at sports, and then my mom's like, why didn't you have fun? I paid money for you to go.
Oh my goodness.
So
you were instructed to have fun and you did not. Why did you fail to follow my instructions?
Yeah, I mean, even, God, I would have taken math camp. I never got to go to space camp. But no, this sounds amazing. And again, such a good way of bonding. Because there are, and I'm one of those people, don't make me compete. I don't want to compete. I don't want to compete in video games. I have no desire to compete, especially not physically, because I am small and slow, and I will not win.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of which, of like, again, going back to like things that I have built in to make this camp be as accessible as I can make it with the staff and funding that I have at this point in time. It's like I have the open door policy. So basically, as long as you are letting a grown-up know where you're going, you are allowed to leave the table, leave the space, and have your moment. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you are upset and you don't know how to express that, or whatever the thing may be, as long as you let a grown-up know, you can take your moment. And so my first 2 years of camp, I had a kiddo who had ADHD and had a couple of other things going on, and they just would let me go, Miss Kylie, I need a moment. And I'm like, okay, how long of a moment? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, great. You can hang out here. I am not going to play with you unless you want to talk with me. That's great. But I'm just going to vibe right here while you do your thing. And when you are ready to go back to the table or go back to the activity, you can, because I want you to feel like you are your best self in this space. Now, granted, we had the luxury of being able to do that, and my hope is to be able to continue that. But I really just want this to be a camp that fosters that, like, you can take care of yourself and still be a part of this kind of thing.
I am so jealous, because if I had that opportunity as a child, I would grab a shovel off the wall and then start digging and then make myself a hole to crawl into. Because Lord knows there are many, many times in my youth where I precisely needed a hole to crawl into and not be perceived. And now I think about it, I've spent like most of my adult life trying to not be perceived. So like that would have been nice to get on the ground floor.
Oh, Reverend In Time says my life would have gone a drastically different trajectory if I'd had a Miss Kylie in my life.
Oh, well, I'm happy to be a Miss Kylie in your life right now if you need it. I believe that people need to do what they need to do to be successful. So
and hopefully you will concur. Like, that's how we run our games too. David and I, whether it's the talk show or whether it's a TTRPG actual play stream, it's like, if you need to get up and leave, we ask you don't turn off your camera, because that's going to mess up the overlay. Put a sticky note over it. We do ask that you say, like, hey, BRB, or still listening, anything like that, because if you just turn off your camera, then I'm going to be worried that maybe something went bad.
We're gonna assume that something has gone wrong, and then the everything is gonna come to a screeching halt, and we're gonna make sure you're okay.
And you know, if your dog comes in and you're like, I need a minute to do that, if you have to use the restroom, whatever.
Speaking of which, here is Starbuck.
Hello, Starbuck.
He's a good boy.
But yes, those are really good, like, learning to advocate for yourself and being given permission to advocate for yourself, because children are so often, like, I was told, you are going to do these sports. You are not allowed to not do the thing. There was an incredible video that went viral a while back of a guy, you know, in a third-party world who ran a school, and he had a sign of how the children wanted to be greeted. And so the children would point to the sign, and there was a handshake, there was a hug, there was a power-up Dragon Ball Z thing.
And a high five.
Yeah, there was a high five. Like, there were so many options, and it was so cool to just see the kids, like, excited of, like, I want this today. And what power that gives a child. Because normally it's, no, you will hug this person. No, you will do this.
Every person our age and older has had the encounter of, hey, this is aunt or uncle so-and-so, and then that person walking up and touching you without, and like if you move away from it, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Or you will give this person the kiss.
Right. Oh yeah. And like the number of people, and so like in general, like body autonomy important, but the number of full-on adults in families that are heavy tobacco smokers, that are raging alcoholics, or otherwise smell terrible, and then they get next to a child who has a very acute sense of smell. Like, I have family members that are long past now, and the only thing I remember about them is the type of cigarette they smoked, because I can recognize that smell. Yeah. And it's just like why is this difficult? Why can't we just say, hey kid, do you want to do this? No? Okay, well, you don't gotta. Like, it's not because there are too many things that kids gotta do already. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Reverend in Time says, I developed a system for dealing with grown-ups when I didn't want to be touched. I carried a small pin with me and gave them a tiny prick when they held me for more than 3 seconds. Then I pretended to have seen a bee.
You know?
Savage.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Brilliant.
10 out of 10, no notes.
Reverend in Times, I have not gotten to play a TTRPG with you, but you terrify the GM inside me. You will throw me for so many brilliant loops.
If as a child I could have gotten away with stabbing adults, it would have happened all the time. I would have known no greater joy.
Yeah. I have a cousin who, when she was little, she was too smart. And we all know those kids who were too smart for their own good. She had it figured out. She was doing something that she wasn't supposed to do. And of course, it's the South, so spankings, right? So I don't remember who it was, but they're like, okay, like, come on, we're going to the car. You're getting, we told you to stop. You didn't stop. We're going to the car. You're getting a spanking. And she threw herself on the ground and said, no, Mommy, don't beat me. At the top of her lungs in the grocery store. And the parents had to rethink how they dealt with her from that moment on.
Spectacular. Spectacular. Yeah. We do not give children enough credit. I was like, that's the full thought. Yes. Like, we do not give children the full credit that they deserve, because they're, again, I said this at the top of the chat, like, they are learning to be people, and they see how other people interact with them, and they're just gonna go like, well, that thing worked for this person, I'm gonna borrow this, and that thing worked for that person, I'm gonna borrow this, and it just keeps going and going and going.
Ask David about the funny thing he did for his which we will not tell that story on the air, but David accidentally taught his writing partner's child a thing, not thinking how that would pan out.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a core memory.
That is.
That's a core memory.
But there is
I've taught that child other things as well, like there and again, like another like small tangent, but there's this whole debate about like whether you take it easy on kids when you're playing video games, and I am of the school you absolutely do not. You give them the smoke, you give them 110% of your efforts. And so I taught that kid to persevere through failure, persevere through challenges by stomping the absolute dog shit out of him in a video game over and over and over again. And while he has not beaten me, he has then gone on the internet and embarrassed people 3 times his age because of the skills that he acquired in trying to beat me. And I'm like, you see how you're good at this? That's because you came to me and got all the smoke, and now you are redistributing said smoke to others. And like, yeah, I'm kind of an asshole because like, who wants to gloat about like beating like an 8-year-old at a video game? Like there's no winners here. Like, you either lose to an 8-year-old or you've made an 8-year-old cry. Like there's no upside here. However, he's taken those lessons and he's applied them, and he has learned perseverance. And I didn't teach him to talk shit, but he's also very good at doing that as well.
I don't remember exactly who it was, but I remember someone was posting, he was running, it's like a well-known GM, and he was running a home D&D game for like 6th grade girls. And he's like, you know, we did our characters and like we expected and he's like, and then I threw wolves at them, like you do. And a wolf pack came up, and he's like, these 6th grade girls tamed the wolves. I've now got to GM with, you know, this pack of 4 or 5 little girls, and there's 7 wolves now. They're all friends. No one has ever done this to me in all my years of GMing.
I have one of my friends is a local high school teacher who got roped in to being the advisor for the game board club by one of my former campers. And let me tell you, this child like has, like, if we're talking D&D, always rolls a nat 20 on persuasion. Truly spectacular.
So the opposite of me. Gotcha.
Well, he's like just he's so empathetic and so understanding. He was a great role model for our younger kiddos, because he was the oldest one in that camp, and it was just, I could go on and on about how amazing the, like, again, that empathy and love and attention that children can share with each other. Again, that I really love when other children are teaching children how to be grown up or how to be adults and people. So that's really wonderful and lovely. But she was telling me how, like, the campaign that they were running during the school year went, and I just laughed because she'd never played D&D ever. This was the first time she'd ever done it, and she was like, well, I might have been the advisor, but I was not captain in that ship. And I was like, yup.
Hello, Candace.
That's good and lovely and wonderful. And so just, yeah, it's amazing. Again.
Absolutely. And we do, I want to talk carefully here, because there are ways that this can be, I don't want to say abused, but misused. We spend a lot of time talking about D&D is literally or any TTRPG is literally an empathy teaching tool. Mm-hmm. But we also have to be careful, because we don't want to say, you know, play D&D and it will fix whatever. And we also don't want to say, like, one of the great things about D&D is that you can gain experience and you can gain understandings and outside perspectives. But you also, you know, the fact that it's a group of all dudes playing at a table, but one of them's playing a black person and one of them's playing a woman does not make that table diverse, nor does, it is a way to learn, but it is still a mask that you put on and take off. Mm-hmm. So you do have to be careful and aware of, like, yes, you can learn a lot and you can be given insights, but also it doesn't trump real world experience.
Right.
And also, be aware, of, like, I play a character, as we know, in a home game that David runs, where David very specifically was like, this world is mostly human, and anyone who's not human is a minority class. And David was like, I am writing this partially to express my own experiences, but also to educate my melanin-challenged friends, right? And I have learned so much from that. I would never play that character in that way outside of that home game, because I was specifically invited and taught by David. Like, that was part of it. So we talk a lot about this, and yes, it is amazing, and please play TTRPGs, again, outside experience, but also be aware, that it doesn't replace real world lived experience.
Oh, 100%. And one of the talking about having diverse tables, one of the things that I've been very cognizant of, because this is a pilot program, and so, like, it's kind of by invitation, but one of the things that I very intentionally did was reach out to, we have a large immigrant population here where I live, and so I very candidly was like, I want your opinions on this camp, like making sure that I'm not doing anything that could be triggering for those kiddos when the museum's open and operational. But then also it's free, so I also have, like, so many low income kids, and so it's a wide breadth and depth of experiences of those 12 kiddos that I have in camp. And so one of the things, speaking of making sure that they feel heard and having those experiences, is, like, I encourage those kids to, if they speak a different language, to incorporate that into their character. And so that was last year was really interesting, because two of the kiddos did actually do that, and they were at the same table, and one acted as a translator because the other one's like, I've decided that I'm not going to speak common, and so the entire game they spoke in their home language, and so it was just pure, and they had cleared it with me. They were like, Miss Kylie, can we do this? And I was like, that is up to you, and between you and the adventure guide. I am I don't remember what I called myself, but, like, the big boss of, essentially, of camp. And I was like, as long as your adventure guide says it's good, it's good. And so I guess just, like, hilarity ensued. But again, I wanted this to be a way for them to express that imaginative play that all children have deep in them, including grown-ups. We all have a child in us, just trying to crawl our way out of the flesh boxes that society has created around us. And
Flesh boxes. That sounds like I need a new stat block.
Well, that's really interesting that's what happened, because our friend Judy, who plays in our home game and works at Brookland, if you're in Brooklyn, go check out Brookland. It's awesome. And they do TTRPG stuff there. She is Latinx and speaks Spanish, and she always plays an elf. She's like, I'm sorry, I play Mary Sue's, and they're all elves, and they're all unique, but they're all Mary Sue elves. Like, that's just how it is. And she's brilliant. And she and one of her other friends were playing an elf in a game who was also Latin, and they decided that Elvish was just Spanish. And it kind of was really, the way she described it, was a powerful tool to reverse a stereotype, because a lot of very wrong and incorrect... Oh, Pirate, welcome on in! A lot of very incorrect people sometimes see the Spanish language as being, like, a lower tier language, and there's some racism built in around that. And yet elves are generally fancy and hoity-toity and the top of the... So she found it a way to, like, reclaim of, like, no, like, Spanish is Elvish and Elvish is this. And it was a really cool reclaiming.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that your kiddos came up with that, too.
I could... So, like, prejudice has always baffled me for lots of reasons. But Spanish, how can anyone go, oh man, this is a trash can language? Have you not heard poetry in Spanish, like Pablo Neruda? Even if you don't know what the hell he's talking about, it is the most passionate shit you have ever heard in your goddamn life. Like, and there are all sorts of songs that we've listened to in Spanish, and like you get on the dance floor and you get it moving, and then like later on you go and like look up the translation and you're like, they were talking about a bunny in a field in this song this whole time. What the hell was going on in this song? But still, the most mundane things sound so beautiful in Spanish.
Oh, 100%.
Hello.
Like,
my name is Indigo Montoya.
Right. And yeah, anyway, that's it's a weird tangent. So I have two questions. One, have you told your director that since you are working 3 jobs, you deserve 3 times the pay?
You know, David, I work in nonprofit and have worked in nonprofit for a decade, and unfortunately, it just is it is what it is. I do actually get paid pretty well for the job that I have, so I'm very fortunate that they pay me what I'm worth. Once the museum's open and operational, my job will be broken up into different pieces. So I will get to maintain the thing that I like to do, which is programming and camps and that kind of thing, and not do the stuff, which is human resources and management, which is miserable.
See, what you got to do is you got to go back in time, and then you have to be born to a rich person who is trying to hide their assets so that you can then not only be on the board where you get paid $1 million a year, but make a whole lot of noise about how your parents aren't giving you any inheritance and they're mean old bastards because they're not letting you have any of their fantastic wealth. While you pocket that $1 million for doing not a goddamn thing. And my second question, which I lost for a moment because I got like distracted, is so.
Thank you so much for the resubscription, Rex. 22 months, incredible.
You've done a bunch of programming for kids. What is something that surprised you with how well it executed, or surprised you with how like not into it the kids were?
I would say that that's a good question. Now, because every child is different. And so, and one of the things, because it's a pilot program, they have like their exit ticket that they have to provide stuff or like descriptions as to like what they liked or what they didn't like and that kind of thing. And I would say, full and well, they love making their characters. They love their 3D print. They love making the box fort, because who doesn't love making a box fort? Like, that is truly a spectacular thing.
For those who came in late, before they play, they build a box fort around their table where they play. So they are literally in their own clubhouse. It's so cool.
Yeah, and so those things are all great. I've had mixed feelings for the quiet year. Some kids really love it a lot and think that it added to their, because they felt like the adventure guides do try to make a concerted effort to include elements from this map building game in the game on Thursday, so that they felt heard, and that what their opinions are matter, right? Like that's again, this is talking about autonomy and talking about speaking up for yourself. Like, that's one of the big things that I want to emphasize to my campers, is that like your voice matters, your opinions matter, all that good stuff. Sorry, I have dog hair.
Excuse me?
Pirate, thank you for gifting 30 subscriptions.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. I thank you so much.
So just everybody gets one.
Yeah, just
You get one and I get one and they get one.
Thank you so much, Pirate. I need someone else to talk because I need a minute.
I'll just keep talking about camp if,
Yes,
so that you can,
absolutely.
So you can have a moment. And so the things that, so there's that mixed reactions of the campers who really are drawn to the quiet year. So much so that one of the campers who I was good friends with their adult asked if I would run a weekend day for them and their friends to play the quiet year because they loved it so much, which was really special to me because I was like, oh, you liked it and this is great and you're a great kid and I'm glad that you like felt something with like this. And some kids who were like, it was okay. And you know, it is what it is. And I did learn that as much as I love D&D and I love playing D&D, that the kids on bikes and the kids on brooms and that's in the Teens in Space, which is all like the same. I think it's Hunters Media that created all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Could be wrong. Sorry.
Candace will certainly know if they're still
Yep.
hanging out in chat.
But those systems really truly set it up in a way that 8 to 12 range are like, okay, yes, this D20 goes here, this goes here, and all the way down, and it's really accessible for them. So I have pivoted away. The first year we used a modified D&D 5e, and then the second year I was like, that really didn't go super well. Let's try Kids on Brooms, which worked super great in addition to Teens in Space. And so I'm just going to stick with that system unless I find something different that resonates and works better. But yeah, heads up to Hunters Entertainment because they made a system that 8 to 12-year-olds like really like vibe with.
And Candace, yeah, confirmed. Hunters Entertainment.
Yeah, I saw it in the chat.
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
And that's really fascinating because I am bad at art. I cannot art, and I refuse to art in most circumstances. And for a lot of people, both in TTRPGs and in like fantasy or sci-fi, maps are really important. And you know, I'm a big fan of like theater of the mind. We just loosey-goosey it. But we've run games where people have said, hey, I have trouble with visualization. Oh, wow.
Zycrav, thank you for the 5 gift subs.
And so as like an accessibility feature, can I, especially when I'm running bigger games, always try to provide maps and visuals and like that. And there's so many people where that really grounds them and connects them with the TTRPG experience, that one, it would make sense that kids would be into it, and two, I'm glad that someone like designed a thing specifically for that.
Yeah. A shout out to Avery Alder because they made a game that I adore, and if you haven't played The Quiet Year, you should. I will shout it from the rooftops every year when the maps that the kids make are truly spectacular, like truly just chaos. And again, because they're children, it's slightly modified because in the game it's like really meant to be like symbols, so it's like you draw an X for like houses or whatever, but I give a whole box of Sharpies and a huge like piece of like paper that like I double up on, so it covers up the entire table, and they just draw, and it's sprawling, and it's like they're telling the story as they're drawing, and again, I wish that I could just record it and share it with the universe, because the things that they say, you're like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
Hold up. What did you just say, tiny human? The gnomes did what to the fairies?
So before we go too much further down, because we're nearing the back half of this. So everyone, if you have questions, if you have things you want to throw out, now is the time. Thank you again for just blowing that hype train just completely out of the water. But I do want to take a moment, Kylie, to step away from the awesome stuff you're doing for kids at TTRPG Camp, which is awesome, and we'd spend the whole time on, except I want to make sure we take time to talk about your actual play over on Hard Knock Dice.
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit, I joined that Twitch stream last February, and so that group has been, that stream's been going on for a long while. They're going to be wrapping up a 3+ change year campaign soon, so congratulate to them, because their story has been super wonderful and lovely. The DM Jones is a saint and a hero. He does all of the background stuff, OBS and all the things, and he was so gracious to invite me to participate in the first campaign I was with, called Blood and Silver. That campaign can be found on YouTube under the same banner of Hard Knock Dice. And we just wrapped up our Weird West campaign called Whispers in the Dust, DM'd by another person. Well, so sorry, I should give credit where credit's due. The Blood and Silver campaign was DM'd by a gentleman named Cody, and then his brother DM'd the Whispers in the Dust campaign, which is our Weird West game that we just finished, that can also be found on YouTube. And we are going to be doing more stuff going forward, including a campaign that I'm going to be running. And so I'm actually, if you join the Discord, I say soon is nebulous. So if you join it, timey-wimey, wibbly wobbly. There will be an announcement for a couple of spots for my campaign. So I'm looking specifically for 2 spots. And if you are a person of color or a woman or both or non-binary, all the good things, we are looking to diversify, and we're trying to be very intentional about that. So hit us up. We're a group of really lovely people, and we really believe in that, making sure everybody's safe and heard, and the team does a really great job of doing that. So
yes,
yeah, so that's all that. I love my 2 characters from those 2 campaigns, and we also do a lot of one shots and things. So I ran a Monster of the Week Halloween one shot that was very fun. I adore Monster of the Week games because they're just great and fun. And yeah, I don't know. I'm this is me rambling now. What else do you want to know?
No.
But for my Blood and Silver campaign, I played a multi-classed bard fighter. That was very fun.
What College of Bards? I have to.
Oof. I'm gonna pull it up.
You don't have to. I just, I'm like, ooh, what multi-classes so nicely with fire? I feel like a sword.
There's
bard
certain classes that if you mention them in the vicinity of K, you are going to get an interrogation.
Hey, no, we're good. I want to be specific because it is, what kind of bard?
I have a problem with bards and rogues.
College of Spirits is who I played.
Ooh, spirits with a fight. Cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and so that was, let me tell you, having a high persuasion with the superiority die, that I rolled so freaking well on a really clutch moment. Oh god, that superiority die just made things amazing.
My GM in a home game, Stephanie, I love you. I miss playing with you. I have my Thembo bard, he is a College of Glamour bard. And the GM made 2 mistakes. First, she was like, obviously Kenley could be inspired by himself. because Kinley
Oh
thinks that Kinley is the
no!
best person.
Oh yeah, that terrible idea.
And then while we were out, gallivanting across the world like we do, we found a magical item that will automatically make your bardic dice be the highest thing it can be.
Oh gosh.
So by level 4, I was breaking 30s in my rolls.
Goodness, that is wild.
It was like, it's a really good thing that this character is good aligned, because they could destroy the world.
Yes, that is spectacular. Yeah, so that was my College of Spirits Battle Master fighter.
Very cool.
And Serafina was just wonderful. We're hoping to go back and revisit that campaign in the future. And then our Weird West game that we just wrapped up, I played a Oath of Vengeance Paladin, Eladrin.
Ooh.
And friend, it was so... and we sort of nerfed it a little bit because it's the West and we had guns, and so like my smites were with my gun was D4s instead of D8s because big damage, which I had fully agreed to. But if I used my dagger, I could use my D8s, and I used part of the tradition of the hard knock dice is you get a birthday 20 that can be used on any roll. I feel like that is a common thing amongst various tables, but I used my birthday 20 on stabbing the big bad monster, scary monster thing, who was a fiend, and it just felt very good to, even though a dagger is like max 4 damage, yeah, like just not great damage, but man, it felt good to have like a nat 20 on a smite, like a second level smite.
Yep.
Just give me all those nut dice. They're just like, yes. And she was very fun. And I feel like everybody puts a little bit of their own personality into their characters. You can't not.
Yeah, if you don't, I don't know if you're a person.
Yeah, for sure. And so I grew up in the West, so the Wild West has a lot of nostalgia for me, and so I was just like, yes, give it to me. Give me the Wild West.
Absolutely.
A thing that I was going to say in the green room but forgot is, as someone raised in Los Angeles, the Wild West is not California. The Wild West is Nevada.
Yes.
Like,
fully.
Like, you can make an argument about like Eastern California, but like Nevada, though, wild, the wildest of Wests.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had gold briefly, and we had olive groves briefly, but wild, never had wild like Nevada.
And the other, it is not Wild West, but it is also more southern in the southern stereotypes than you will ever experience just about anywhere, is Montana.
Yeah, Montana is its own animal. Like it. Yeah. I got to be there for the NDA'd, embargoed announcement of what was David. As David's leaving, heck, what was which?
It was Far Cry 5. It was Far Cry. It was Far Cry Prepper. Yeah.
Far Cry 5 is where you're fighting the cult of heavily armed people in Montana, and I was told stories that I am still under NDA. I am never allowed to tell the stories that the folks who made this game experienced when they went up to Montana to like figure out what's the atmosphere for this game, what is this like, because they're like, we can't let those people know. Like, people can't know that we know those things, so you're never allowed to tell that story.
Well, I have no doubt. I have absolutely no doubt that that's the case.
Again, I grew up in Texas, but let me tell you, I saw more redneck stuff when I was in Michigan for 4 years, I learned about the Christmas box of squirrel tails.
That's
Wait. Christmas box of squirrel tails.
Okay.
You could give me 100 years and a thesaurus and a dictionary, and I still wouldn't put those words together in that order.
So you know how Christmas tradition, which this is very funny. Apparently they do this literally in Australia. I have had 2 Australians go like, wait, that's just like, that's not a thing you do. You know how bad people get coal in their stockings?
mm-hmm.
In Michigan, or at least in the hunting community in Michigan, the most bad, least good, most rude, least liked person in the family, the woman of the house, whenever they go hunting and they bring in the squirrels, she cuts off all the squirrel tails and puts them in a box. And whoever is the biggest jerk gets a box full of squirrel tails wrapped under the tree.
I'd get it every year.
Wild. That is.
I'm like, wait, you do what? And they're like, yeah, it's the box of squirrel tails. Yeah, again, DC, I had never heard of it until now. Again, I was on the college campus. We were barbecuing. You know, we were doing midnight barbecues when it was not freezing, and people were showing up with, well, here's bear. Be careful when you're cooking it. There might still be buckshot in it. Here's squirrels. Like, they're just bringing us game meat. So, Pirate, we don't got coal, but we do have squirrels.
That is truly wild. Oh my goodness gracious.
I'm just like, okay, this is... And again, for those of you who don't know, I grew up in Texas in the small town where Joe Exotic was a cop. I grew up closer to a big cat rescue than I did a grocery store.
Goodness gracious.
Kay almost went to the same high school as Joe Exotic.
Mm-hmm. We would have, yep. So
every new piece of K lore that I learn about from Texas just grows increasingly more unhinged, because I lived closer to a big cat rescue than a grocery store is not the craziest thing that I have heard in the deep K lore. Like, what has happened to baby K should be documented in a fiction series where they'd have to cut out all the unbelievable stuff and it would still be wild.
But, so to bring us kind of back around to where we began, and I apologize if this is like a what, is there anything that you have learned from your time running these children's camps, running these children's TTRPG camps, that you have brought with you to the tables that you have played since?
I think just not being afraid of doing the weird or wild thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I like sometimes I feel like the longer you play TTRPGs, you're like, oh, I don't really want to do that character because that might feel, you know, contrite, or it's been done before, or it's the like lone wolf, like whatever.
Hey knows nothing of edgelords.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's the word I was looking for. I was like,
I have never played an edge monarch in my life. I have never played a disaster queer edge monarch. This has never.
Right, but but here's the thing: like, they're fun to play, but I feel like adults sometimes overthink the character that they want to play, and they want to pace out, like, okay, I'm going to do this, instead of just sort of living in the character. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've really done. I think specifically with Hard Knock Nights is that, like, prior to that, I was doing like home games and a podcast, and where I was still like figuring out what does that feel like. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, I'm just going to live in this space, and not. I hate when people are like, well, that's what my character would do. Not do that, mm-hmm. but just like, okay, what is the logical conclusion?
Right.
Also, what is the story we're telling, that, and how does that fit together?
We did a whole episode on, like, in defense of it's what my character would do. Not from, you know, the the dude bros. Let's be
Right.
honest. We know who that mostly is, right? But from like, no, I understand this character, but also like with what you've brought is I understand my own needs. I understand the needs of the table. I understand how to communicate. Again, I play just the most horrible disaster queer edge monarch in my Starfinder game, Emergency Power Podcast. And like I pitched this character knowing they were potentially going to be a problem. And like sat down with my GM and I'm like, here's what I want to do. Here's the end goal. Here's the safety rails that I have. Because I know that you could bring in those characters and cause problems. And I did not want to do that. No worries.
Yeah, so like to use my last character as an example, just like the pitching in the conversations that we have with people. So I was playing this vengeance paladin, and I got smitten with the rogue, and it was one of those things where me and the person playing the rogue exchanged conversation was like, hey, based off of our previous role play, it's sort of pivoting what I'm doing. Are you cool with us like developing like a flirtation relationship-y thing? And I was like, yes. You have to understand though, this is the pendulum swing for my character. And so made it there. It was quite hilarious. The entire table was laughing with that uncomfortable like sort of teenage awkwardness kind of thing, where my character was like, I have these things and feelings and all the things. What do you feel like? And that the rogue character was like, oh, I don't know how to do this.
I have not experienced a feeling before, so this is all brand new.
Yeah. And yeah. Oh no, it's just like it was just so funny. Like the table was in the chat going just like, ooh, bro, like your bro ancestors are all cringing hardcore in the background. It was truly spectacular. And if if luckily or I would say like Whispers in the Dust and Blood and Silver are both only 20 episodes, so they're digestible. Still for
it's like not years long.
Yeah, not years long. Unlike Across Eberron, which is again spectacular, and if you have a whole lot of time, it is worth going back and watching it. But
look, Critical Role got me through lockdown the first time. We have to go back in, right? Go find that long form campaign and just start going. I promise you, it'll help.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like. It was just fun. The interactions that we had, but it was like. It was the conversation of that's what my character would do. Like Kylie would fully just like go, I have nothing to lose. This is the Wild West. You could die tomorrow. I could die tomorrow. Let's do this. And he was like, all right, I feel it. Be prepared. It's going to be awkward. And I'm like, give it to me. I love it.
Yes. Pirate, you are not allowed to tell this to anyone in the server if you are still lurking. My Kinley, the Thembo Bard, with way too much persuasion, has accidentally started dating the Paladin and doesn't realize they're dating.
Now,
it's also
set up an entire fireworks display to confess how they feel about them.
No, it was just to kiss them. It was just to give them a kiss.
Oh, sorry, just a kiss. Just for smooches.
It was technically the second kiss because they stole the first kiss and then felt bad about it, so they needed to make their first kiss good.
I appreciate that.
When I say that Kinley is a monster, is a force to be reckoned with, this is what I mean.
And it's very good because the other player, RJ, I miss you, is incredible. You should be watching this, RJ. Turn it off if you're listening. RJ and I, like, we talked about, are you okay with this? Because RJ's character is all like, this is me feeling my insecurities, right? And for me, it's just like, oh, this is just my manic depression turned up to 11, right? Like, this is what we are, and this is where we are, and we're cool with what no one in this party has figured out, except now David has joined, so David knows, so David is actively making it worse in the best way. We joke that Kinley is the horny bard. Kinley has little bitty horns and flirts with everyone and everything. Somehow is always back in the room the next morning. Kinley is asexual. And no one has figured out that Kinley is going off smooching people because smooching is lovely, and then being like, that was lovely, goodbye. And the town is always mad at Kinley when we leave.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. Truly, truly fantastic.
Like, no one has figured it out. And it is joy. And again, communicate the right things with your players, or with your fellow players, and then let other things go.
Right.
Because you get those moments.
Right. And I think it's like, it's the idea of like, going back to your question of what have I taken from working with these kids, it's like letting yourself be in that realm of embarrassment, because children don't realize they're being embarrassing until someone says, oh, that's so embarrassing. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, if you just
that's so cringe.
Yeah. So I think if you just play authentically and just with empathy and joy, your experience will be so much better, because you're just like, okay, I'm just genuinely doing this.
Yes. Do not kill the part of you that cringes. Yes. Do not kill the part of you that is cringe. Kill the part of you that cringes. I will get it right the third time.
Yes.
And that's also like, okay, I'm such a D&D nerd. I started playing D&D and then went, well, now I'm going to take some improv classes just so I could be a little bit better at D&D. And it was very weird because all these things that I knew instinctually just from playing D&D, they were now giving me like the names for and like the mechanics behind it. So it was just like very affirming of like, and one of the first things they said is like, and this is so true in D&D, especially in an actual play, one that is not edited, one that's live. Mm-hmm. As an aged out himbo, I feel attacked by this. Is don't try to make the right decision.
Right.
Make the decision and then make it the right one.
Right. Well, it's the living with your consequences. Like, one of the things I tell my campers all the time, and not just campers, but like other people that I'm teaching how to play different TTRPGs, it's like, actions have consequences. Those consequences can be positive, they can be negative, but just understanding that whatever you do is a consequence, and being okay with whatever those are. And I just have to shout out Alex saying, live in the cringe. Yes, Alex. Alex is our DM, Hard Knock Dice, and I adore him. Say hello, Alex. We love you. But that living in the cringe, embracing that life, and just playing through this. And I don't know. On this International Day of Play, if I had any words to give, it's just to play. Just yes. Consequences are plot points.
Yes.
And out of all the people who will see this, there might be one person who actually plays a TTRPG character that doesn't spill off like the most innermost, like most vulnerable part of themselves onto the table. And I want to tell that one person, it's okay to play that way too. Like,
yes.
I don't think I've ever on stream played a character that was like me. It is always somebody who is very far away from the sort of person I am, to the point whereby in green rooms, I've been like, okay, look, my character's going to do a thing and say a thing. I am not like this. I think this character is a monster. Maybe drag them out into a field and like do something bad to them. But like, it's not me. I need to, but that doesn't mean that you don't play authentically. That doesn't mean that right. You don't lean in. And so like, when you step into the shoes of this character, like whether you're playing a character that is another version of you or not, like just like lean in and don't like, it's tough to say to people, don't be shy, because that's not like something that you can just like flip on or off. Mm-hmm. But Like, just commit to commit to the bit. Like, if your bit is they never have their shoes tied and they trip on them all the time, like, don't make a big production of like, oh well, you make sure you tie your shoes. Fall on them, like trip and fall on them.
Yeah.
Be about it.
And you will never know, like, playing safe, you will never get to have fun. So I'm getting ready to play a game where I get to play a character who I played once in a short-term campaign a while ago, and it was fine, but it didn't really click. And I was excited to get to play this character again, but in the last Thursday's Pride game, we were playing 5e, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try and bring back Brandon.
Oh,
and
boy.
like, and again, comedy is hard. Right? And especially if you're bringing in a character with comedic effect, or if you're bringing in an edge monarch and you're like, I want to figure out how to do this, you're not going to know until you do it, right? So even if you practice, what you think is funny might fall flat at the table, right? And I was like, I don't know if people are going to like this character. It might be too much. And then we come up to the group of bandits, and I'm like, hey, what's up? My name is Brandon, but you can call me Brandon. And Chad is like,
shattered me to my core.
Shattered David, and everyone's like,
core.
I would die for this character, right? Like, this is it. So you will not know. And yes, I probably coulda, woulda, should have pulled back on that more and not made him so much. But the fact that it was just like, this is who I am, and I'm unapologetic, and like, I'm gonna be helpful while also being a meathead, people love it.
Yeah.
So be authentic, and if you are having fun, I heard the dying is easier than comedy. Be genuine, have fun, because honestly, if you are having fun, now also read the table, because if you're having fun at someone else's expense,
Right.
Yeah,
well,
don't
and
do
that's
that.
just that's just again talking about going back to the way that I interact with my kids. It's like, don't be a jerk. Like, don't be a jerk.
and know the people well enough. Like y'all, we're recording the Emergency Power podcast. It's coming. I swear, it's gonna be back. But we just did a recording where like my character kind of started roasting one of the other characters, and like I know Pan so well that I'm like, Pan, we cool. Pan's like, Para getting roasted was my favorite part of the episode. That was so, no one has ever roasted Para before. And so you can be mean so long as you're being mean with good spirits, right?
Right.
And you were on the same level with the other players.
Right. It's that trust, and so that's why we don't jump into the game the first day. We spend 3 days building trust, building communication, building those solid foundations, so that during the game, the kids can go, okay, I feel comfortable enough with you to do X, Y, and Z. And now, obviously, they're children, so they're not doing the same things that we as adults are doing. But like with the language thing, like they were able to like trust each other enough to say, okay, yeah, I am going to only speak in my language, and you're going to translate for me. And that person was like, yes, I love it. Let's do this. Let's make everybody feel a little uncomfortable. But the other kids were like, yeah. And they were teaching each other like phrases in that language, and it just like, lovely. It was,
and it inspired learning. It
Yes.
inspired learning and curiosity and a desire.
exactly.
Hey, Shadow Main, welcome on in, Jason.
And so I'm just, because I want to be respectful of people's time, the one thing that I want to do is give a definition, since it is International Day of Play.
Yes.
Play is broken down as simply as this: doing something for the sake of itself. So if you are doing something for the sake of itself, you are playing. So that, like, we play TTRPGs and video games and do things like we play in the traditional sense, but playing with your dog is playing, gardening can be playing. As long as you are doing something for the sake of itself, that is play. And so I wish everybody a day of play, whatever that is, so that they have a happy, healthy, better life.
That sounds awful anti-capitalistic of you. How are you supposed to generate value for shareholders if you're not doing something that's specifically for generating the value for shareholders?
I've had a lovely show, David. Why you gotta
Right,
comment?
and I just had to.
Just had
I mean,
to.
we're allowed to have anti-capitalist commentary on this because play is inherently anti-capitalist, anti-colonialist. Let's let children play. Let grown-ups play.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, I don't know if you know this, Kylie, but my first real point of my career was I spent 15 years as the senior community manager and lead moderator for DeviantArt. And one of the big things that we did was like, let's bring art to more people. Let's make sure people have time to draw and to play. And that's why we made Miro, which I don't know if anyone uses anymore, but it was really cool. It was the only web-based browser, web-based drawing tool at the time. And it was just really cool to just be like, just go draw. It doesn't have to be good. But you'll feel better after you draw. Or you'll feel terrible. It's one of the two.
I mean, I always feel terrible after I draw, but that's what writing is for. So you can feel terrible, but not as terrible. No, that's a whole different thing. But since we're talking about kids, 2 handy tips for raising children. 1,
Oh boy.
give them unstructured time.
Yes.
So many kids, every moment of every day is scheduled to do a specific thing. And if your kid has never been bored, then there's a big developmental gap that they have to fill. The other thing is teach kids subtext, because like, especially in thinking about like kids at like a TTRPG table, interacting with one another, building trust, and doing the whole like, well, this is what my character will do. They will be little shits. They will know that they are being little shits. And when you point it out to them, the first thing they will do is try to lawyer their way out of it and explain to you why they have to be little shits, or why whoever they're being a shit to deserves it, or any of the other. And here's the thing: you got to teach the kids. You got to look at them and be like, listen, you can all that jibber jabber you could give to me, but you still know that you're being a little dickhead. Like, look over.
Yeah.
Clarissa is crying because you said her doll was ugly. You did this. You are an asshole. And the reason you have to teach this is because so many people who are adults, including about 72.6% of the internet, is packed to the fucking gills of people who do this very same thing. You are being an asshole. I'm telling you, you're being an asshole. And you're trying to talk to me with words to try to make me change it, so that you're not being an asshole, and that I am the reason that I am upset when you punched me directly in the kidney. Like, make it make sense.
As a tangent, and I don't know how far we want to go down this tangent. The first one of like not overscheduling children. Here's the thing: I'm convinced the reason why adults overschedule their children is because they have forgotten how to play, and they do not want to be bothered to remember how to play. I cannot tell you how often when I'm out in a community event where it's like, I tell people, I don't have to tell a child that play is important. A child will play naturally. I have so many adults come up to me and go like, how can you play pretend with my kid for so long? So long is like 15 minutes now, mind you. And they're like, after 5 minutes, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, have you ever just practiced?
Yeah. Have you ever had
You have to practice
fun?
to play.
Yes.
Like, and then now granted, I purposefully play in TTRPGs to keep that sharp, because children go off the walls on their adventures, and you're like, oh, we're on a pirate ship and now we're on a spaceship. Cool. It's all, we're just keep on going. We'll keep on going. I'm great, happy. There's a space shark. Cool. What does that do? Awesome. And you just keep on moving. Adults who do not play are terrified of having to entertain their child because they are uncomfortable with being silly. They don't want to be wrong. They don't want to look weird or bad or whatever. And I say words to that.
I have not been read to filth this thoroughly on camera in years.
I'm going to date myself here, and then we're going to wrap it up. So chat, if you have any final questions, now is the time. But I'm going to date myself a little bit here, because one of my favorite movies growing up was The Never-Ending Story. And it was one of those, there's an era of kind of darker 80s kids films that were amazing, but they were also somewhat non-linear stories. Like Labyrinth was a very linear story, but while there was a through point in the never-ending story, a lot of the story was not said. You just had to like put it together. And I know a lot of people who grew up and they watched, you know, that was one of their favorite movies. We talked about it, and they're like, oh, they're like, you know, 30 something now, and they're like, oh, I watched that again recently, and that story doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, oh no, the nothing got you.
Yeah.
You grew up and the nothing got you. If you've forgotten how to understand the never-ending story, then the nothing has you.
Right.
And yes, so that play, have fun, be silly. I don't think I have to tell that to anyone hanging out in this chat, but encourage it. So yes, Kylie, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck on the camp. And please, again, tell us where we can find you, what shows you're on, and why they should join the Hard Knock Dice Discord.
Yeah, so you can find me on the various social medias of history_Kylie. I don't use them very often, but I have them because they're there. I'm on a Twitch stream called Hard Knock Dice. You can find that on Twitch, and all of our past games are uploaded onto YouTube, so you can just type in Hard Knock Dice and you can find us. We do have a Discord, and that is where you can sign up for, because we are going to be doing new games and things and having open calls for folks, and I'm going to be running a game soon. So I'm looking for 2 people. And if you think hanging out with me for a couple hours a week sounds fun, we're going to be posting the information about that campaign soon. I don't know. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else.
I have one closing question for you.
Yes.
And that is, are there children in your campaigns that you run? And if so, when you're GMing, and if so, how terrifying are they?
I don't have any currently. I would say that the campaigns that I've run with children are always...
No. I mean, you playing, you as an NPC, you as a GM, having NPC children in your world.
They're spectacular, and I love them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I've based them off of real life children that I know, and I'm just like...
The only people I know who play children well are like, I'm playing the worst little shit I have ever known, and it's 100% someone's kid who I used to babysit.
Yeah. No, I often have children in campaigns that I run, and they are always people, or like children that I know from various things, and they're great and wonderful. The best NPC children are the ones that are sweet baby angels that finally see the wrong, and then they go full feral, and you're like, oh my god, what have I done?
Incredible. Well, again, thank you all for joining us. I'm gonna thank you, Pirate Fox Atlas, for 35 gift subs. I cannot. Thank you, Zycram, for 5 gift subs. That was a level 7 hype train. We've never done that. I just thank you all. Thank you, Rex, for the resubscription. Thank you, Pirate Fox Atlas, for your resub as well. Thank you, Urban Bohemian and the Transmissions, for the raids. As always, you can find us, not as always, Wednesdays during the late afternoons. They're a little bit loosey-goosey because we're dealing with my schedule changing and 0 sessions for our charity games, but we will be playing tomorrow at some time Baldur's Gate 3. It is our first playthrough. We are playing it streamed, and I am playing Kinley, the Little Terror, along with David's character from the home game. Thursday, come by for Magnificent Pride Game 3. Nicotine, who we're going to raid, is going to be running us through her original system, Islis, along with Pan, whose character I read to High Hack last night. Candace the Magnificent, of course. Piper Matihi, who is hanging out here, and Heck, who is our Tay. Tay Evangeli from Backwater Bastards, award-winning podcast. It is going to be a time. There's going to be lots of giveaways. There's going to be not hard knock dice, but die hard dice. We'll be giving away gift cards and all sorts of goodies, so please come by. David may or may not be streaming Friday. I may or may not be streaming at any point because I am newly fun employed. And David, who the heck is you and what the heck have we been doing here?
I am probably going to be streaming Friday because Another Crab's Treasure is a brilliant game, and there will be a surprise stream over the weekend, so keep your eyes and ears open. I am also glad that I don't have any children because I'm tired and broke as is. And for whoever is out there with children and are doing the good things and breaking generational curses, I appreciate you because I do not have the spoons for it. And this is the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how capitalism is always the villain, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
With that, thank you all again for being an amazing chat. Thank you for asking questions and making us laugh and distracting us, as you always do. We are going to let Kylie get back to her day, and we will see you next time. Be kind to yourself and be excellent to others. Bye.